98.5 FM.
We're wishing you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Very good morning to you, and thanks for joining us on Radio Justice 98.5 FM. Today is the 30th day of the month of December 2020, just about a day before the year ends. Let me welcome you once again. My name is Mumuni Yerfa Yunus, and this morning we have an exclusive interaction with our friends from the National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRATS. We'll be discussing the privatization of education in Ghana, its advantages and probably the disadvantages, and what government should be doing with regards to ensuring that priority is given to pre-tertiary education in the country. So you're welcome. Production is led by Alhassan Mashud Damba. Producer for the show is Osman Al Hussein. Technician on duty this morning is Uncle Umar Farouk Abdallah. On behalf of all these beautiful people, we welcome you to the show this morning. And in the studio with me for the conversation this morning is Mr. Richard Kwashi Kove. I hope I got the name right. He's a NAGRA rep on the CAPCOE committee. Yes, and Festus Bute Longmate. All right, nice name. He's a GNECC rep on the CAPCOE committee. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us this morning, and Merry Christmas. Yes.
A prosperous New Year in advance.
First time in Tamale?
Yes.
Wow. So, how is Tamale receiving you?
When we arrived, yeah, the weather was okay, but I think it keeps changing, and we are getting a bit. The Hamatan is a little bit harsh here as compared to what we experienced.
Yeah.
But I think it's normal here around this time. So we are getting used to it.
Long Mate. Yeah.
My brother said we are managing. I have been here, I think, on 2 other occasions.
Okay.
But this time the weather is different.
Yeah. And it even appears this year's Hamatan is even moderate as compared to the ones we've experienced in times past.
Maybe because we are coming, that's why God decided to.
It's wonderful to have you in the studio with us. Let me begin with you, Sir Richard. Let's talk about CAPCOE and what it means.
Yeah, so it's a CAPCOE.
CAPCOE. All right.
So CAPCOE stands for campaign against privatization and commercialization of education in Ghana. So that's the acronym. So actually, CAPCOE as a committee was formed in 2015 after several monitoring and research into the issues of education privatization by the teacher unions in collaboration with Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition that represents civil society organizations. So there was that partnership for us to look at the issues. And I think between 2009 downwards, we noticed there's this concept that the world leaders call global response campaign against education privatization. So it did not start only in Ghana. It's a global thing. And so all over the world, and the target groups have been the developing countries, to Ghana inclusive. And you will know that when it comes to signing of certain things, Ghana is always among the first countries to ratify these things. So normally you sign and then the end result doesn't look good. Already you have entered. So what it means is that the initial concept look good, but by the time you finish, you are worse off than you thought. And so some international partners who are also not pleased with this and came together for the global response campaign. And then in Ghana, our local, this is the CAPCOE that we are. This is so, like we said earlier on, I represent AGRAT on the committee. And then my brother represents Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition on the committee. We also have representation from NATS, TEWU, and CCT. So it's a joint venture that we are all fighting.
And Festus, what's some of the objectives of CAPCOE?
Yeah, one of the major objective is to campaign against the privatization and commercialization of education in Ghana. Yeah, because we have realized that due to neglect on the part of government, if I should be okay with my words, we realize that because of lack of enough funding in our educational sector, it has come to the time where we have realized that most or more private schools are just springing up in the name of low fee profit schools, and the idea is for them to come in with the intention of taking fees at a lower cost on daily basis. For instance, the Omega School franchise, for instance, is an example. Springing up in the Kaswa area. Now, this is happening because we don't have enough public schools in those areas. So you see these private people taking advantage of the situation to begin to establish schools. And at the end of the day, what happens is that they come in with the intention of collecting fees on daily basis, thinking that it is rather cheaper. And that sometimes encourages parents to prefer to send their children to these schools. Now, what happens is that you realize that it is more or less like cash on delivery. So you go to school today, you pay, and then that's it. What it also means is that when on a particular day that a parent doesn't have the means for the child to go to school, that day the child absent him or herself from school, meaning that the child is going to lose some contact hours for that day, which will not be recoverable. So we are saying that these are things that are reducing the quality of our education and then, of course, learning outcomes. Therefore, CAPCOE is mainly here or campaigning to solicit for support to ensure that government provides schools in every area so that every child in every community would get access to quality public and enjoyable basic education in this country.
Yes, Richard, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, so just as you said, the concept, normally when we talk because of the way we campaign against privatization and commercialization of education, people misconstrue it to mean that we wouldn't want anybody to establish private school.
That would have been my next question. If there's a campaign against privatization of education, it means that you may be fighting private schools.
Yeah, so our fight is not against the traditional private schools that we have. And the concept It's just that it's a technical thing. So it's good that we are here having this discussion. Yeah, you see, there are so many ways of we say killing a cat. Good. So what is happening is that now Ghana, in terms of urbanization, there's a development around the cities. We take Accra, Kumasi, Sekondi, Takoradi, Tamale here, and several other cities. So most of the new areas that are springing up, what is happening is that in the assemblies, town and country planning, plan, you see that they demarcated areas for schools, hospitals, lorry parks, and those social amenities. But then the chiefs will go and sell the land to private developers. The assembly will rezone it for them to put up private properties. Then they come and say, oh, there's no land to put up a school for you. And what it means is that the children within those areas have no access to public education. The only option available for them is to access the private schools that are there. And then some of these private operators, edu business people, are catching it up in on this idea. And government is looking at it as if they are supporting government to provide education. And so once they are doing that, then it means government's own expenditure to education is reducing. So they are this. So what it means is that even there's a neglect in expanding the infrastructure base for the existing schools to take more students. And so if you go around, I'm sure Tamale here, you notice that the least class size may be around 50. That's the minimum. And you have as much as over 100. And when it happens like that, you agree with me that there's no quality teaching and learning that can take place in that environment. So if even you don't have the land to put our schools in these areas, what should be the next move? The next move to expand the existing areas, increase the classroom blocks, to have a sizable number of pupils per class that the teachers can attend to the individual needs of every child. That is not happening. So because that concept has been neglected for, we don't have any clear infrastructure development plan for basic education. They ask the assemblies to see to that. But what is the budgetary allocation for education at assemblies itself? How much are they able to mobilize in terms of revenue that they will channel into provision of classroom blocks? That is a big challenge. So what it means is that the schools will have to manage the system. And so when you're managing something, it doesn't give the quality that it deserves. So most parents now see this as an opportunity as, oh, public schools, they are not performing. Let me take my child to audition. But I want to say here that it is not the quality of teaching that the parents are talking about. It is the school environment. We actually said beautiful things with quality. So it is not because they know, every parent know that the teachers who teach, they are not professional teachers. So probably they are not even sure how they are handling their children, the kind of information they are providing them. But then the school block look very beautiful. There's security, and they have the basic amenities that goes.
And they have time for the kids.
Very good. So with that nice environment and those facilities, you assume on the surface that here quality education will be provided. Then you go to the public schools, and then you see, if you are lucky, a dilapidated structure, and sometimes you may not even have that. You will see a tray, and then there's a chalkboard hanging on the tree, and then a teacher with the students, some sitting on bench or board that they put on the stone, and then where they even have classrooms, the desks that the children sit on is not conducive for learning. The kind of furniture we use in our public basic schools is a disincentive for learning in the first place. Every child needs to have space for himself and concentrate on the lesson. But when you put 4 or 5 children in one desk, definitely the teacher only goes to settle dispute in class, not to teach. Because when somebody push the other person will take offense, and then you see blow, and then you go, and before you settle this one, another one is behind you. So these are the challenges. And so we think that it is something that is being done deliberately to shed off the responsibility of providing quality education in the public sector. Then we can now shift attention to the private sector and say that is what quality is. And so if you look at U.S. Agency for International Development assessment reports that was published in 2019. These are people that have been supporting our education budgets, World Bank and the rest. Now, they are saying that because the private sector is providing quality education, they will now want to channel their funding to the private sector, so that they will provide that quality. So they came to do some assessment in the northern part of Ghana here, and then the recommendation to government is that there's a long list of this waiting list. That's there are a lot of parents want to send their children to these low-cost private schools here in the north, and but the schools are not many. So they now want to get people who are interested in going into that business to come for money to set up these schools. And government will guarantee with the consolidated, that is public purse. So in case they are not able to pay, now it's government that will do the payment. Now the question is, if there's a problem, what do? You seek a solution to it.
Yeah.
And when it comes to seeking solution for public education, it's not far, because you can just walk by and then you see what the problem is, and then you begin to work on it. But anytime that issue comes up, because it comes to funding, then we turn around and say, oh, the teachers are not committed to their work, they are not teaching. And the question is, when you train a surgeon and take him to theater and you don't give him the surgical tools, can you do any operation to save a life? That is the issue. So,
but really, let me come to first this on this issue you are just landing on. Since the inception of the single spine salary structure, we know, obviously, that teachers in the public sector are well paid than teachers in the private sector. Most teachers in the private sector. But we have a situation where it appears as though, especially at the basic level, the private schools perform better than students in the public schools. What accounts for that?
Yeah, you see, when we talk about quality education, it is not only about the child being prepared to go and write exams and pass. You know, it has to do with holistic development of the child. And we go to when you go to our public schools, you realize that most of the teachers in the public schools are professionals teachers.
Yeah.
You know, they have really been trained to understand and know how to support the child to go through his or her developmental stages. Unlike the private schools, where most teachers employed there are probably SHL graduates who are not really professional teachers. Exactly. You understand? So what they do most of the time is how to prepare the child to go and then write exams and then pass. Are you getting it? So this is not what we refer to as quality education, because apart from just writing and passing exams, there are other potentials in every child.
But doesn't our system fine-tune our minds into believing that just writing and passing your exams is what amounts to quality education?
That is the problem we are having. That's why most parents think that sending your child to the private school is always better, because we feel that they do better in their examinations as compared to children from the public schools. But we are saying that education or a school should be available in every community and accessible by every child. Are you getting it? It should be acceptable by the people who would access it. Are you getting it? And then, the children, when they get in there, they should be able to adapt to the school environment. Are you getting it? So, for us, we are advocating that government should allocate more budget or expand or invest more in our public education system.
So it's not the case that you are necessarily fighting private schools.
No. So let me put it here that we are not against private involvement in education service delivery. That is not what we are fighting against. But we are advocating for quality education. Now, even if the private man, or if there should be private involvement in education service delivery, we are saying that government should regulate their activities to ensure that they operate within the regulatory framework, so that they don't end up rather violating the rights of the child to education. For instance, there was a time you realize that there was an intention to to outsource the management of some selected public schools to private organizations to manage at a commission. So what it means is that these private managers are going to go, they will be profit oriented, and for that matter, their target is to get the child, to go and write and pass his or her exams, and then they can be able to make whatever profit that they are supposed to make. Now, when this, for instance, happens, what it means is that these private managers, for instance, would discriminate in terms of providing access to education for children. If I am a private manager managing a particular school, and then my aim is to achieve 100% examination pass, and then hit my target and get whatever profit that I am entitled to. When I am admitting students to my school, I will be tempted to use admission screening tests to screen the children before admitting them. What it also means is that when I realize that a child has a kind of learning difficulties, I am likely to deny that child access. I get in it. I might prefer to admit children who are sharp in quote, because they would help me to achieve my target.
Already brilliant students.
You understand? Meanwhile, there is no child that doesn't have any potentials in them.
Yeah.
Every child has some kind of potentials, when well developed, would help all of us as a country. You understand? So we are not against private participation in education service delivery, but we are saying that they should be well regulated and they should operate within the frameworks. We are also not against parents sending their children to private schools, but what we are saying is that a parent must not send his or her child to a private school because of the absence of a public school.
Yeah.
Because it is a basic responsibility of government to ensure that every child in this country gets access to a public school. So government has the responsibility to ensure that public schools are everywhere, so that every child in any community can access it. Are you understanding it? So that we are saying that for a parent to decide to send his or her child to a private school, the parent, it shouldn't be because the parent doesn't have the option to send his or her child to a private school. Sorry, to a public school. Are you getting it?
Yeah.
It should be the discretion of the parent to decide that yes, there is a public school, there is a private school, but I would prefer to send my child to a private school, which of course on the average appears to be more expensive than the public school. So that becomes a choice by the parent. But in the situation where there is no public school, what it means is that whether the cost of attending or sending your child to a private school is expensive or not, you have no choice than to send that child to the private school. So we are not against private participation in education service delivery. We are not against parents deciding to send their children to private schools. But things must be done right to ensure that the right to education for every child is achieved.
Richard, you mentioned the fact that a lot needs to be done in ensuring that the public schools are up to the level where we can say that there's quality there. You mentioned teacher motivation, the provision of basic facilities for teaching and learning. But beyond that, it goes back to my question where it appears it's the state policy. It appears there appears to be lapses in our education policies where, like I said, it appears when you just write and pass your exams, that makes you, a brilliant student. That gives you the opportunity to further your education. Once you fail one or two subjects, then you have nowhere to go. Don't you think it should begin from even the top, right down to the point where the teacher is even involved?
Yeah, you put it right. it should be from the top. And that's why, if you check, we always advocate that before any policy is developed, we, the representative of the teachers, should be part of it right from the onset, because we are on the ground and we are monitoring what is going on. We know what is there and what is not there, and the possible ways of achieving the goals. But most of the time, when they are coming up with the policies, they see us as an obstacle to whatever they want to do. So they'll be hiding it from you until they are done, sneak it to Parliament, get budgetary approval. Then they will now call you and say, oh, we want to introduce this. And they don't even tell you the details of this. They just present some 15 slides, and then they tell you what you want to do. So, okay, fine, we want to also look at it and then make input. Can we have access to the actual document? So it's just a concept. There's no serious this. And then you say, okay, fine, we're going to make inputs. Before you even put pen to paper to make any inputs, they have already passed it into policy. So you'll be there, and your district director will call head teachers attend that there's a new directive. Even policies come to the classroom as a directive.
Wow.
So when you're developing a policy and you term it a directive, what it means is a straight line instruction supposed to follow. There's no modification to suit the environment in which the person works. And then they say, oh, the policy says this, so everybody must do this, irrespective of the environment in which you find yourself. So when it happens that way, definitely it affects the delivery process. And so, just as I was saying earlier on, education is not about passing examination. After all, the child learns for 9 years. If you add KG, almost 11 years. And how many questions does the child answer in examination? About 5, at most 10 questions when you come to maybe the sciences and the rest. So, what it means that it's more or less a gamble. Before the exams, what the child is able to, at that moment, because it's not the teaching per se that will make the child pass. There's a teaching process and a learning process. So the teacher does his work by teaching, giving the child the necessary information and the guidance that the child needs. But the child must also have that time and the environment to sit down and internalize that idea. And so that it becomes part of him. That's when we say learning has taken place. And this one normally is supposed to be done by the child and then the home from which the child, because when I finish teaching you in the classroom, I won't follow you to the house. So when the child gets home, the parent must get an environment that the child can revise whatever has been taught that day, and then that guidance is there. But normally that is not what we see in our in the first place. When I conceived the idea of establishing a school, I will look at a number of factors or elements. For example, the classroom block, the desks, is just a smaller unit of it. Beyond that, that school environment must have a library where children at their leisure time can go and do revision, read other things. Check even if the information the teacher has given them, that's what all other people are saying. So the next time they come to class, what it means is that they're going to ask questions to challenge this. So the discussion becomes very lively, and then it opens up their mind. If you do census, how many public schools here have library? It's virtually nothing. None of them have library. Now we have technology that we can use to also
Those
access
who even
information.
May not have the requisite, books.
Very good. So even the textbooks that the government is supposed to even provide, they are not there in the first place. And when it comes, if you have 100 children, they give you 20 textbooks. Who do you give it to and who do you leave out? So it becomes a big challenge. Now parents are aware that government's education is free and they are providing everything. So if you even write that, buy ABC books, they come and fight you because government has given you books and you don't want to give it to our children. And you say we should go and buy. What is the government doing? Then you are an employee implementing government policy. You can't do much. So you have to. So you see teachers even photocopying on daily basis passages from the textbook just to let every child have access. The question, who pays for that? And how long can the teacher, looking at the class size, continue to do this? So if the person has some additional income somewhere that out of generosity, he or she will continue doing that to help the children. But not everybody can do that. So definitely they will do what they can. And so when it happens like that, quality is affected. You look at our syllabus. When you take basic design and technology at the JHS level, if you look at the concept there, before the child leaves the class, the school, JHS, complete JHS, they're able to prepare, make simple artifacts so that if that is where his talent is, he may decide to pursue that at the technical level, and then that becomes his profession. But how many schools have workshop and even the tools for them to do practicals?
And we even consider students who opt for technical courses as dull students.
Very good. That is also one thing which is not true.
Yeah.
Which is very, very wrong. Because if you look at our economy, the most productive area is the skilled area. What you and I are doing here, we are just informing public. It doesn't relate into physical development. So if we want the system to develop, we need things that we can sell. We can sell knowledge, all right, but it has a limit.
Yeah, sure.
But if more of our people can acquire these skills, know that, I'm good in electronics, so I'm going to pursue radio, television, electronic, this at the technical level.
And that you not even be waiting for government to come and employ you.
Very good. So you leave school, you are already self-employed. If you want to go to university, it's at your discretion, just to gain additional knowledge, because you're already working, making your money. But are we focusing on that? No, we are following somebody answering some questions, and most of the time it's chew and pour, pass and forget.
In fact, to add a little to what my brother is saying, you realize that most developed countries develop on the basis of this technical vocational training. You understand?
So when you look at the cost of providing, we went for a workshop somewhere, and we have some of these international partners, and according to the consultant, these world leaders sometimes even advise our governments not to focus on technical vocational education, because we always rely on them for money. So when you go into an area where there is capital intensive, meaning the burden on their decision will be high, and once you develop the skills of your people, you become self-sufficient.
Exactly.
You will not come to them, and you cannot, trade your gold and other things at cheaper price to them. So normally they put some strings there that ties the hands of our governments from this. But if we as a people can sit down and look at a homegrown policy and say, this is where we want to be, let's forget about the donor partners. Even if you have to make sacrifices, everybody know this sacrifice is for good. Definitely everybody Ghanaian will be in support of it. But that's not what we see. The middle class will take their children out of the system when they see that the system is failing. The money they could use to support the system, even as an individuals, they take their children and give it to a private person, pay $4,000 a term with other incentives. Then somebody to a private individual who build a very nice school, provide all the facilities, say, yes, I'm giving my child quality education. The question is, you can give your child the quality education you want, make him very rich, but you will not have the peace of mind. Because anytime he goes into his room, you have to lock the burglar proof, provide security door, do all the necessary things to be safe. Because when his classmates that he takes that child out of, goes out there and they are hungry, and your child is very satisfied, they will come after him to go to survive. And that is what we are now noticing. So the middle class, who could have been the voice of the voiceless, normally take themselves out and then leave the masses to suffer. And then we've been paying lip service to education delivery in this country, and that is not this. So the concept of quality education has to be looked at again holistically. Do we just want people who just read, solve mathematical problems and know nothing beyond that? They cannot even apply those concepts in real life. Is that what we want? And that's what is happening. Then I also want to add that if we have been doing tracer studies between how children progress from public education system and then private education system, we realize that we are killing our children. Because until the free SHS, where the secondary schools were repeating and withdrawing non-performing students, most of the students that are normally withdrawn are children from private schools. And they come with 9 ones. So the question is, how did they get the ones? Because the teaching approach over there is about coaching. When you go to the exam, the question like this comes, this is how you answer it. So the child memorizes just that. He doesn't even understand the concept behind it. And so he goes to the exam, and then most of our questions are mostly recall. Even those that you talk about that try to test understanding, synthesis, analysis, are basically because all those things are in the textbook, the child read them. So if you ask, explain why this is, it's just repeating what he has read in the textbook. So it's a matter of you having the retentive memory to memorize things and go and reproduce in exam, then you get one. Then we say, that child is very brilliant. The question is it really brilliant? because the brilliancy of a child is tested when he or she can apply what he has learned in real life situations. And so for us in the public system, we try to focus on a holistic education. We are not looking at the child only pass. It's one of the key things that we use to measure our work. But then beyond the child, when I meet the child after school and I ask him, what are you doing now? I want to hear like, oh, now, even though he has like 15, 10, 20, I want to hear, so, oh, I'm now the manager for this. That is what I want to see. I'm now the owner of this construction company. That's what I want to see. It's not necessarily this thing. The child doesn't have to get 9 ones to be able to do those wonderful things. We all know Bill Gates. Do you get it? So it is giving the children the kind of education that will prepare them for life, not for examination.
For those who don't know, Bill Gates is the founder of Microsoft. And he really didn't, go to a university. He ended his
professors are
working under him. Even working under him, he's paid them.
So that is why we should be going. So that we should be measuring education by how it relates into the behavioral change in a positive way. And for us to do that, we need an environment that the child can explore. So we need a school environment that has all the needed facilities, the needed resources, and the proper funding, so that when the child gets to the school, he or she can explore the environment and say, this is why I fit, and then begin to develop from there. So my brother mentioned that we children have different learning abilities. So in a typical public school classroom, in our system, you see that when you have 2 children and one do things intelligently, what do you do? Oh, I have to give this child proper education. So what do you think? Private school.
Private school.
Then the other one, you send to buy sugar and you bring you salt. So you this, I will not spend money on you. Where does it go? Public school, because there is like, I will not spend so much. So when this child comes, because the parent have already rated this child useless right from the house, even exercise book, they are not willing to spend money on it. And then when it happens like that, the public, the state, should take up that responsibility by giving that child, even though he couldn't do simple arithmetic, he couldn't do reading fluently, but if you give him the environment, when it comes to skills, he could be even more better than the ones that are doing all the mathematics. Because people learn by imitation. And once they do that, once they get the basis right, they begin to add more to it. And that is the kind of, so no child is useless. Every child is very useful. But then we make children useless all the time because we don't have the resources to help them develop their full potential. And that is why we as a CAPCOE think that it is time we create awareness for the public to know that it is not just about examination passing. It's part of it. The children need to pass. But is that enough? How many people with first class become successful in life? Normally it's the third class. Even if you look at our governance system, most of the people that are really
average students,
they are average
average students.
Yes. So it's the resources, and we can easily do that, because I don't believe that there's no money. There's always money, because Ghana today, if we have to do something right now that involves the people in position, they'll find billions of dollars to sponsor it today. Then when it comes to education, so the budget is limited. Education alone, we are paying so much, and they make noise about the fact that about 90% of the budget for the Ministry of Education is used to pay salaries and wages. But how much do I get, and how does it even take me throughout the month? Put my mind at peace to be able to be committed to the work. Because it's not just about salary. When you hire me to work for you, the salary you pay me is the value you place on me. That's how you value me as a professional. Now beyond that, you have to remove stress on my way so that I can deliver. I will not have any excuse why I cannot do A, B, C, D. So that is why in most companies you see that beyond the salary that the person is being paid, they create allowance for this, allowance for that, accommodation for this, for that. In GA they say we should come and take loan to rent a place to stay in. And that they consider as an achievement. You should come and take, teachers should come and take loan to go and rent a house. And if I'm planning education,
be deducted from
your salary. So if you don't have money to eat, you come to school as a teacher. You come to school on an empty stomach because you have a family and other dependents. and you have to manage whatever you have. So if you are hungry, you cannot deliver.
A hungry man is an
Very
angry
good. So
man.
that is why in our system we see that
Yeah.
we need to have some extra time, like remedial teaching for those that are behind. But the teacher close and is already in a hurry to go and get something, because if not, he can't survive. And so these incentives are very, very important. Sometimes it doesn't even have to be monetary incentives per se. Create a conducive environment. Put up some hall and chamber, even self-contained, closer to the school, so that the teacher
like
live
we have
there.
in the health sector.
Very good, like the health
where
sector.
the nurses have their quarters just close by to their
so,
facilities.
So you even the head teacher can even monitor the teacher
exactly
closely.
There will be no excuse to even absent yourself.
Very good. If you say I'm not feeling well, everybody can see that today you are not feeling well. But when you're staying far away from this and you call the head teacher, today I'm not feeling well, I can't come. It could be that he doesn't even have money to take her to school that day. You have to find some excuse. So that should be part of the decision. When you do that, you reduce the burden of cost of what? Living. And the teacher has no excuse. The health of the teacher is also paramount. And then being upon all that, how is the teacher respected in this country? Because anything you hear bad news, they want to associate it with a teacher. And then we have our own brothers and sisters in management position who will go on air and in public gatherings and instruct parents. If any teacher does this, beat him. If this in teachers, they try to part, thinking that is how. No, we are in 21st century. A lot happens in our health institutions, but nobody knows about it because they want to protect the integrity of their profession. So if a student that I'm teaching sit on radio hearing the minister, a director, or a parent condemning teachers, and then the following day he comes to class and he stands in front of me, whatever I'm saying, he's analyzing all that he heard about me, so he's not paying attention. And that's some of the things that we've been losing focus on. They pay a peanut to a teacher, the whole world must know about it. You know, MPs take so much, nobody knows what happens in there. But they give a teacher 100 Ghana cedis, they will publish it. And so immediately we go to the market, prices of goods and services are gone up because now teachers have been paid some peanuts. And all these things, we need to put a stop to it if we want to repackage the educational system to achieve the desired goal. And that is,
in essence, we don't respect
the respect for the teacher in this country is not the best.
90.5 FM. We have an interesting conversation with our friends from CAPCOE. CAPCOE is a coalition against the privatization and commercialization of education in the country. In a studio with me, this hour is Richard Kwashi Kove. He's with Nagrats, and he's Nagrats rep on a CAPCOE committee, and Festus Bute Long Mate. He's with GNECC, and he's their rep on the CAPCOE. What's GNECC?
Yeah, GNECC is the Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition.
Okay.
And it is a network of civil society organizations, professionals and individuals who are interested in promoting quality pre-tertiary education for every child. So that's what we are. And then we are also the civil society mouthpiece in education in this country. And we are even represented on the Ministerial Advisory Committee of the Ministry of Education. And then we work hand in hand with our Northern partners. That's the Northern Network for Education Development. We work direct hand in hand with them. So we are in charge of the old 7 southern regions, whilst NET is in charge of the old 3 northern regions, currently 5. So this is what we do to ensure that every child in this country gets access to free quality pre-tertiary education.
So let's look at quality public education. What informs quality public education?
Like my brother just mentioned, I mentioned earlier that education has to be accessible, by every child in this country,
regardless of status.
Whatever. Education has to be accessible. It has to be available for every child in this country. I mean, when the child goes in there, the child should feel comfortable to learn. I mean, everything has to be made available for the child to be able to learn. There should be there should be reasonable accommodation for every child to be able to adapt him or herself to the environment. So the system has to be made friendly for the child. I mean, the school environment has to be very friendly to the child. I mean, the facilities has to be made available. I mean, remember, we have also signed onto the SDG 4 goals to ensure that we achieve the target, which also makes it very clear that no child must be left behind. So, for instance, a school should be friendly to a child with disability. That child should be able to access the school without any difficulties. There should be the provision of washrooms for children, especially the girl child, to be able to feel comfortable even in the days that he or she in the days that she is in her menstrual days. You understand? So, and then aside that, there is the need to also ensure, like my brother said earlier on, to ensure that the teachers are provided with all they need to be able to teach and teach effectively. Teaching and learning materials must be provided for the teachers to be able to teach. I mean, if possible, there should be accommodation provided for the teachers to make access to the school environment very easy for them. It is also very important that we also involve the community itself in the management of our community schools, so that they also have a role to play, both as communities, as parents. And then there is the need to also ensure that it is true that, or let me put it this way, that the Children's Act, for instance, makes it very clear that in any matter concerning the child, the interest of the child must be paramount. There is the need to also involve children. There is the need to also train children to also understand what their responsibilities are, so that at the end of the day, they go to school and they are taught. They also know that they have the responsibility to also do what they have to do to be able to, acquire what they are expected to acquire from the system. So these are some of the few things that I think that, in addition to more others, that I think we need to see in providing quality education. But there is also the need for the government, as we are advocating, to spend more in the system. Now, in order not to leave any child behind, for instance, Ghana has developed the inclusive education policy, which was launched somewhere in 2015. Now it is in its 5th year and currently going under some review. What is happening is that if we leave any child out, whether the child has any other form of ability or not, we will not be able to achieve the SDG 4 target, which talks about not leaving any child behind. Are you getting it? So we are also advocating that government should not increase the budget allocation for the implementation of the inclusive education policy. For instance, in 2018, for instance, government pledged to increase the budget allocation for the implementation of that policy to about 1.5% of the education budget. But what happened? Beginning from 2019. But in 2019, what happened was that the budget allocation for the implementation of the policy rather reduced from 0.3% in 2018 to 0.1% in 2019. So we realize there is that lack of commitment to ensure that every child is included. Currently, the how do I even put it? The funding for the implementation of this policy is largely donor supported. I get it. So what it means is that when the donor withdraws, then what happens? What happens?
There will be no funding.
Are you getting it? Yeah. So we are saying that government should not be committed to ensure that it provides the necessary support for our educational system to achieve the kind of quality that we all expect to see.
Is it a case that the education-related unions are not pushing to ensure that more resources are allocated for the sector?
Yeah, I would say that somehow you are right, and that's why we thought that the time has come for us to do what we were supposed to have been to have done so many years back. It looks as if like when you go and they complain, oh, there's no money, oh, things are not this, so you accept this, let's manage. Then we also take that, oh, we sympathize with government, and then so we will manage. And so now government is taking advantage of that. Despite the fact that they are not giving us what we need to work, and then motivating us well enough to deliver on our mandate. They go around and say, oh, the teachers are not teaching, they are not this, so they bastardize the profession, and then now are taking advantage of that to do their own business. Because most of the politicians are now into provision of building or establishing private schools, and so they find comfort in that because it's an additional income. Even when they are no more in parliament or in government, they can rely on that. So it's a kind of kill this one to give yourself an advantage. And if you don't check it now, a time will come, all public schools will collapse, looking at the challenges that we are facing. So, like you said, we've been doing, but not much. We've not done much enough. But now, with this committee and then the kind of attention we are giving now, that's why we're having this conversation. Because we just had an election. If by God's grace, on January 2021, somebody is inaugurated as the president of the republic and he appoints somebody as minister for education, we are going to wear the same socks. Because the right thing should be done. That's why we are saying this at a time that nobody will say, oh, you are doing it because you don't like this government. Because sometimes that's some of the things that happen. You want to express your concerns, and then they say, oh, you are in line with this political party, and that is why you are saying that. Then the moment you do that, then everybody begins to take sides. So the focus is not realized. But now we are saying it at a time that we all know whoever is going to be the next government has enough time to put proper measures in place. Look at somebody who is committed to providing quality basic education. Because now we are adding secondary education to the basic sector. So when you say basic education, now it means include from the KG to SHS. Very good. So we shouldn't say that the budgetary allocation for education is consuming the budget. If it's consuming the budget, what it means is that we have not, the budget is not in the first place enough. Because if you have a challenge to be solved and you need X amount of money to solve it, and you are drawing a budget, you have to look for the money. And I always say that when it comes to money that goes into waste, we find it. For example, what is the relevance of our independence anniversary celebration? After 60 years of independence, what are we celebrating? But every year we find millions of dollars to go and stand in the sun and sometimes in the rain and march, and then we say we are celebrating what? Independence anniversary. Is it relevant? Relevant. Why can't we channel that money into anniversary development plan, so that this year, next year,
every 6th of March we
have
what we will do.
School project 64th anniversary school block. So it's labeled there, so we know that this year, as part of our attempt to become a developed nation, this is the project that we've done with this. And so on that day, we just commemorate it, just as now we are commemorating Republic Day. So we don't have to go and stand in the sun, do all those displays, spend all those monies. And of course, the event planners will not agree with me. Of course. They will not agree with me. But then if the nation must go forward, we have to re-strategize. These are money that to me goes into waste. And we see it like, we struggle to gain independence, so there's a cause for it. But we should celebrate in the development ladder. It is when you've done everything and you read that stage that you look back and so all the things are where I want to be, I'm not here, so now I can celebrate. But when you are working, you build one block and you go celebrating. Definitely you will come back and the block you build is washed away by rain because you have not made the achievement. That is where we have lost focus as a nation. So some of this extravagant expenditure and other things that we do, if we can channel those resources, add it to education budget, add it to the health budget, we will be getting somewhere within 10, 15, 20 years time. When we say we are celebrating independence, they will have something to point to. That is what we have achieved after 60 years of independence. So before we have our 100 days in independence anniversary celebration, we will not be having this conversation. We'll be talking about success stories. And that is why I think we are going now, and we are going to be very loud. And what we want to do is that the media have not been very supportive.
Maybe you haven't been availing yourselves
in terms of our campaign. So this time around, we want to also mobilize support from the media, who is the third government. You know, when the media carries the information, it carries with, they ask the relevant questions. The people are put to what? Accountability. So, Minister, are you aware of challenge ABC in this area? You say, I'm not aware. Okay, now go there, there's a challenge. So definitely you have to direct somebody to go and check what the problem is and look for a means of what? Solving it. So when we are taking them on like that, then we are heading somewhere, because every single child, even if it's a single child that is not in a classroom, it's a worry. You should be worried. Because that child can become the next Osama bin Laden, and the whole of the world will not be safe. Because when children feel neglected, and then they conceive the idea that nobody likes me, they become violent. And why would they conceive that idea? Because they are not able to have what their age mates are having. They feel like society doesn't want this, and they see a neighbor's child doing well, and then they cannot even afford a 3 square meal a day, and they have to go and hustle for the people that this. You see an old man calling a young man, "Oh, daddy." Why is he calling him daddy? Because he's looking up to that young man to provide him some money to be able to eat that day. And that our society shouldn't be like that. We should carry everybody along. Everybody should have basic necessities, so that if I wake up in the morning, I can go to my school, leave my door open. When I come back, everything inside there will be what? Intact, because whatever is in there is in everybody's home. That will look like a perfect society, but definitely it's always advisable we minimize the poverty. There's so much inequality in our education system, and it's creating what we call a class system, and a class system is not very conducive for.
What happens? What would happen if our public education sector collapses, and then the private sector thrives? Yes, Festus.
Yeah, like we have said earlier on, if that happens, that means that we have destroyed the future of this country. Yeah, we have destroyed the future of this country, because we know very well
with
that
the current trends, are we likely to get there, to a situation where the public sector would collapse if things don't change?
Yeah, if things don't change, what it means is that the system is going to worsen. It's going to get worse than it is. Like my brother was saying or articulating, from the point he's making, what it means is that we should rather channel our resources into what? Providing quality education, or investing our resources more into our the provision of quality education in this country. But sometimes government tries to find an alternative. For instance, the intention some time ago, like I mentioned earlier on, to outsource the management of our public schools to private managers, because they think that private schools perform better than the public schools. We realize that the kind of model, in fact, as for public-private partnership in education service delivery, it has always been with us. Remember, we have the mission schools and other organizations supporting government to provide education for our children. But the kind of model that has to do with outsourcing the management of our public schools to private managers to manage for us is not the best, because it has been implemented in other countries, and we realize that though it is with a good intention, but we realize that the outcome rather is worse than we think. You understand? For instance, when these schools are handed over to private actors, they have the discretion, for instance, to decide to cause the transfer of teachers from the schools that they are managing to other schools. And when we look at, with reference to Liberia, for instance, they implemented a similar model. And what happened was that one of the private managers, Bridge Academy Internationals, for instance, transferred or caused the transfer of about 50% of teachers in the schools that they are managing, and they brought in about 71% of new teachers. Now, the teachers that were transferred are teachers who are professionals. You see, these are professional teachers. These teachers were transferred from those schools, and then teachers that were brought in are not professionals because they have the discretion to do whatever they think they have to do to achieve results. Are you getting it? So they will bring in teachers that are not professional teachers, but they bring in teachers that will help, that will only support the child to go in and write exams and then get their 100%. You understand? So this, in this case, there will be a problem of quality here, because the issue is that if, let's say, even assuming that these teachers that were transferred from the schools that these managers are managing to other public schools, which they are not managing, and assuming that these teachers really are not performing teachers, the question is, which children in this country here deserve to be taught by teachers that are not performing? Are you getting that? Are you getting the issue? So in this case, we are talking. When it happens like that, it means that we are discriminating against some children in this country. When it comes to access, you realize that most of the schools selected under some of these model are located in urban areas. Meanwhile, when we go to the rural areas, that's where we have more of the problems. So if maybe such intention is to help to maybe make the learning outcomes more quality, why do we not target the rural areas or the hard to reach communities, but rather we target the schools in the urban areas?
Yes.
You understand? Another condition even attached to some of those models is for the school not to need immediate rehabilitation. So if your school does not need an immediate rehabilitation, that means that school to some extent is okay.
What to do?
Are you getting it? So why this? Now, like I mentioned earlier on, these private persons would also want to admit children that can help them to achieve their target fast and make their profit. You understand? Because of this, they are going to use admission screening test to admit students that are brilliant in quotes.
Brilliant students.
Are you getting my point? So what it means is that those that they think that will not help them to achieve those targets are going to be denied access. Meanwhile, for all you know, that is the only school available for that child to access. You understand? So you realize the issue of we end up widening the inequality gap that is already existing, which we are all thinking of what to do to bridge. Are you getting it? So these are things that we think that needs to be worked on. That's why we are saying that instead of government spending so much money, or investing so much money to engage private actors to manage our public education for us, they should rather reinvest those monies to solve the problems in our public education system in terms of building the capacities of, let's say, our head teachers to be able to manage the schools effectively, the capacities of our second supervisors to be able to perform their roles effectively. You understand? So that at the end of the day, when supervision is strengthened, we are more likely to achieve the kind of results that we all expect to achieve.
Yes. Let me add this before this, and I think all these concepts of public schools not performing became an issue when the Ghana Education Assessment Report 2015 was published. That's a national education assessment. That and the area that raised concern was that children at grade 2 could not read and comprehend, and that was the basis. So since that report was published, I've been until last year, another assessment took place, and I have received calls from the teachers. You know, children in class 2, these are young children that confidence level and all those things are not yet developed. So what I heard from the most of the schools that were the assessment took place was that these people are people that people don't know. They walk into the classroom and they say, "Oh, class teacher, can you step out for us? We are coming to conduct assessment." And then you call a child, "Come and read in front of me." The tension in the child is reading in front of the class teacher. That particular moment, that child cannot read because it doesn't have that. That's the first exposure to reading to some and a stranger. Do you get it? So when you do these assessments, and then it's a random selection because it's not like every child you pick point children. Hey, you come. Then they will bring them together and you put a book in front. Yes, read this passage for me. The child doesn't know you. So I think the correct form should be okay. These people comes, and then the class teacher there, they sit. You can be sit at the window or somewhere, and the class teacher, as part of the normal teaching process, will say, "Oh, Kofi Menu, can you read paragraph so and so of this information?" The child will read. Yeah. And then the teacher does this, but a stranger asking a KG child, class 2 child.
Sure.
To read. Sure. Definitely your report will not be something that if I'm this I will take. Because it's not something that this, but that was the basis. So the conclusion was drawn. But if the child couldn't read at class 2, doesn't mean that child cannot read by the time you finish JHS. So why should that be so much of a concern? And most of these children, I've taught in a school where some of them come to school for the first time when they're already 10 years. Yeah. And we know about complementary basic education. So if you have such a child who has just come to school and because of the age, you place him in class 2 and you are doing assessments, the teacher is not there today, you do your random sampling and then you pick that child. That child cannot read. Do you get it? So you go and write your report that this school is not performing, but that's not the true reflection on the ground. And it's not the true reflection of the effort the teacher is putting into this. So sometimes when we are doing these assessments, especially at the lower level, we should approach it with a way that we can let the child feel free to exhibit what he or she can do. And I think next time they are doing this assessment, that issue, those who are in charge should look at it carefully. Well, I received that call, several of the teachers called. This is how the thing was done.
What kind of public support would you need in this fight against privatization of schools?
Yeah, so thank you very much. We are teachers, but what we are doing here is not for our personal interest. It is for that child in that community whose parents don't have the voice and the power to decide how their children are taught, what goes into the planning of the kind of education they receive. So we are just serving as mouthpiece. But for us to achieve that, we need the support from even the parents because they are the consumers of these low-cost profit schools. And then they are left thinking that when I take my child there, then I'm giving my child. So those selling pure water will save money and go and pay school fees. And they continue then around class 4, class 5, sometimes JHS, when they could no longer pay, then they will draw them there and bring them to public school. And sometimes we test them and realize that if you should place them at their knowledge, this like right age, then they should start from class 1. But then if you look at their report card, shows that child is doing very well. That's what you see because then it's very simple. If I'm paying you 1,000 cedis every term for you to teach my child and the child is not good, will you write a report that shows that the child scored 20% in the exam? Because definitely it will look like the parent is wasting money. So you have to find a way to upgrade the scores. So that continues. And the trick is this. Most of them will take the money from you, the parents, and then when the child gets to JHS 2, and they know that the child is not good, now they will say, "Oh, we are doing repetition." Or they call you, the parent, and say, "In fact, your child, we cannot register him. If we can find another school to register him, that will be okay. But in our school, we have A, B, C, D chance, so we couldn't register the child." So now the parents will take the child from that school that they have wasted the child's time over the years, and then now send him to a public school because it's in JHS 2 there. When they come to your school with proper, how do you call it, this or JHS 1, whatever, you have to admit him if there's proper transfer procedure. You have to place him in the class that he or she was before coming to your school. And so you now have to deal with the deficits that child is carrying. and then you present that child for examination the following year, because now in public school we don't repeat children. If you have to do that, you have to seek the consent of the parent. And how many parents will want their children to repeat class? And that's an issue. So you have to now carry that burden that they will go and write the exam in your name, and then you say, oh, the child they'll conclude that he didn't pass. That means you, the teachers, there. But how many years have you handled that child? These are the challenges. So I always say that the money you spend taking your child to some of these schools, if you can use it to buy books and you don't have to even pay for any other thing because the public sector is free, give your child that support. Definitely the child will perform and you will marvel. And most of the time the argument is that these people are not professional teachers and they this. But I have had instances where before they go, when they get to their final years of examination, it's the same public school teachers who are hired, paid well, so that in the evenings they can come and prepare them for exams. And it's common. And anybody at all, almost everybody has a child in private school. You see that they say we are camping the children. When they get to phone to say we are camping them, who teach them? It's not their regular teachers. It is not those teachers that they say they are non-performing, that they will now come and hire that, oh, every evening come and prepare my what? My child for me, our children for me. Some parents who have money will pay and say, okay, you, since they are all our children, you take the whole class. Then we prepare them for exam. They go and write, because when you go, they give you access to their resources, their facilities that they have, their labs, their everything. So you use it, you take advantage of that. Within a short time, the children get the 111s, and then they say, oh, is the non-professional teachers there who made it know. These are some of the things that the public. So we are saying, if we can support the general public, especially the parents, can support our core to push government to do what is right, because we are paying taxes. Yeah. And our taxes are supposed to use to develop our systems. And if I pay tax and that tax is being used because they use it to pay somebody fast salary, he use it to pay a private individual to provide his or her child what they call quality education. And then your child is in a community where nobody even thinks. The only time they visit that community is election time. And then when they come, they throw some few coins at them and they shout that they are doing well, and we can get this in. So we need the support from the media, we need the support from parents, and already we have the support of the civil society organizations, so that it should be a national discussion around the issues, so that we can all come together and see the way for it. But if you ask me what the challenge is, it is absence of resources. We should be demanding.
Right, it is 9:15 a.m. We have the interaction with our friends from the Coalition Against the Privatization and Commercialization of Education in the country. You can join the conversation via our phone line, and the number to call is 0507-816-540, 0507-816-540. If you have a question or an input, whichever form it is you want to add to our conversation this morning, you can call us on 0507-816-540. We're talking about privatization of education in the country, its advantages and disadvantages. Do we have the advantages? We do know that there are really some good private schools around.
Yeah, before I go to that, to add to what my brother just said in terms of the kind of support that we need, I will say that, parents.
I have my very first caller. Let me pick the call. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, good morning.
Hello.
Yeah, hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, please, your name and where you are reaching us from.
Please, my name is Lulu. I'm calling from Shishon.
All right, we're listening.
Please, I want to speak about it.
Yeah, sure, you can.
Now the institution.
I mean.
Let me share a party at Thomas on the yellow Chukuru Karam Consum Borefa. Kamana Pomeranian and the Bole Shama, these are long Kamare. To your mommy, Money, I look at secondary level. Government like publishing ma do the repair. I'm actually private schools in the primary that can get ma. I'm on the woman from the chance this one. I won't come. I want to come down. Over one will be town public school, one will be town private school. So because we are the lab private schools, I didn't carry calculation solution, the Carpa Quantum Sullivan. From the left solution to back and take a bomb the Yanga. So, in the career component in born of Sonti, Carpa, number publication count back. Which we are complimentary and last wagon and new about you support to mark. You are coming there to go to one to Bacala, the Mali Guru, my you support. There is a pump. Amarin come here going to Bena. Thou shalt come, woman to play la over responsibility or lash support to mark. So high your money than the year. Won't be Chukuma to 2 years and 1 year crew. Those who la presentation by them shall come. But woman in a map from the rule of the song, this will come from school to Wombala, Malana for Tanda, Malana the Kitten Bang.
All right. The poor Pam Kapai.
Those women mentioned, but they don't know than the two without the La Pravis Setma or manager left. Some Dora. That's why I'm Malani meeting.
The poor Kapa, he's suggesting that our governments should handle over the public schools to private persons to manage, but ensure that government maintains, resourcing the schools. He says that if you look at the basic level, where it appears there are a lot of private schools, they appear to be doing better than the public schools. And he thinks that it is because there is quality supervision at that level, especially with the private schools, than in the public sectors. And then he's also saying that head teachers at the public schools are unable to come out and complain about genuine things affecting the quality of their delivery. And once a head teacher does that, he becomes a victim of the government. So basically that's what he's saying. Yeah.
I think that is this, but the issue is when you, like I mentioned earlier on, it's not just about supervision. And when you talk of supervision, what are the people supervising? The dilapidated classroom block and 10 desks that over 100 people are packed in. So you see, the supervisor comes to the school, he sees the challenge, and it's like he lost focus on what he's coming to do, because you have to solve the basic things before you can now look at what the teacher. So the teacher comes to school every day, he's doing his best, but then it's not realizing achieving the desired goals, because the things that even need to work, sometimes chalk in the school is a problem. Now most of the schools decide to use marker, and government is here to start supplying markers to the school. So it means that you, the teacher, have to buy your marker all the time when you're going to this. So these are the resources are the most important thing before we can talk about supervision.
So you can call 0507816540. First this year you were making a point.
So in addition to what he has just said, like I mentioned earlier on, if the issue is about supervision, what we are advocating is that for government to spend money to engage private managers to manage the schools. Government should rather reinvest that money to strengthen the system. If it is about supervision, government should spend that money to strengthen that system, so that if supervision becomes effective, then we will all achieve the kind of result that we expect to achieve. And then when it comes to the issue of, let's say, head teachers not coming out to complain about the problems that they are facing as a result of performing their responsibilities. That is why we civil society organizations are there. That is why we work hand in hand with the teacher unions, and the teacher unions themselves are also there to raise the issues. You understand? So I think that shouldn't be a problem for the head. For the head, that is why I believe every head teacher in this country, in all the public schools, belong to one teacher union or the other. So if you have a problem, it is your duty to report the problem to your union, and then the union will take the issue up. And the civil society organization, we are also there. We, for instance, work hand in hand with government. For that, let me use this opportunity to commend government for that. That when it comes to issues related to education, as much as possible, they try to involve us. But the only problem that we have is the level of consultation. Sometimes the consultation is not extensive enough to at least involve, especially the teacher unions, whose members are directly in the classroom, okay, who are faced with the real situations in the classroom. So we are saying that for government to, be able to really resolve the problems or the challenges in our educational system, they shouldn't leave the teacher unions out when they are planning to come out with any policy, both at the planning level and also at the implementation level. Now, to continue with my brothers,
just even before you continue, you can call 0507816540 to join the conversation. We have barely 7 minutes left to wrap up.
So I want to use this opportunity to call on parents, use the opportunity to call on community members and also the traditional authorities, because they are in the community, to place a kind of monitoring role to ensure that in those communities that children are unable to access public education, they should make their voice be heard, so that government will come in to ensure that schools are provided in these areas for our children to access public education.
Right. I think I have another caller on the line. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Your name and where you're
this is Osman calling you from Tarpa.
Osman, were you listening?
Good morning to you, to your noble guest, and to the listeners of Justice FM. The topic at hand is very tricky. And one thing I will share my own opinion as a child is that I will advise that government shouldn't have much, hands in this sector, because when that thing happens, I'm telling you,
Osman, can you reposition yourself for us?
So that we can... now better?
Yeah, it's better now.
Hello?
Yes, we are listening.
I was saying that if government has much hands in this our educational sector, that is where the problem is coming. This free senior school we are facing currently, the policy is very good. But you see that because of politics, we rush in implementing it. That is where we have this particular program. And all is not lost because we are still progressing. Let us dwell much as to how to improve in terms of the infrastructure and then make the education just a one track to ensure that will be strengthened, so that everybody who is going to come out as a graduate will know where he is go. Because Ghana, as we are facing in future, I'm telling you, there are educated people in this particular country. That you don't just have to pass through education. Let education pass through you, so that it will be in you. Wherever you find yourself, it will emerge. So, my brother inside your studio is doing a very great job. Media should support. We, the listeners, need to support. And then let us encourage whenever he should try as much as possible and allow the institution itself to perform. So that if the institution is we are going to achieve the result that we want at the end of the day.
Right.
So thank you very much.
We are grateful for your time this morning. You can also call 0507816540 Festus.
Yeah, so in addition to the point I was making, for communities that have the school infrastructure, it is still the responsibility of these key stakeholders, parents, members of the community, and then the traditional authorities to ensure that the schools are friendly to the needs of every child. The schools must be disability friendly. And then we are also calling on government, like I mentioned earlier on, to ensure that they provide schools in every community for every child to be able to access education, so that this does not give rise to the opportunity where we have private persons taking advantage of the situation in a particular area to exploit parents and, for that matter, children in those communities.
So we need to have policies on education, but the policies must be flexible in such a way that in every school environment, the school leader there can adopt some innovations to improve this. But what we currently have is what we call line management. You have to take instruction from headquarters before you can act in your school. So if there's a problem in your school, until you receive orders from headquarters, you are unable to do anything, because we try doing something, and then somebody says, hey, this head teacher is doing ABC, say, hey, do you know what the policy says? Hey, pack your things and go. And so that doesn't lend itself for people to be innovative, modify things around their environment in order to improve on the system. And so that is also one conversation we need to be having, the kind of management systems we have. So when you're talking about supervision, we are in policy implementers. So if the policy is good, when I implement it, it will achieve the desired results. But if the policy is not good, and then I'm following religiously the guidelines that have been set out for you to implement that policy, definitely when the results don't come out good, who do you blame? Is it the policy maker who has given you direct guideline that you should follow, or you the one who is just following somebody's guidelines? These are some of the conversations we've not been having, because the teacher there is following somebody's instruction. So they said the new policy says do A, B, C, D, and they give you a guideline. If you don't do this, these are the sanctions applied, and you are following that religiously. At the end of the day, the results are not good. Who is supposed to take the blame? These are the questions that we should be asking.
Right, all this our time is up, but I'll come back for your final words. We've been interacting with our friends with the Coalition Against the Privatization and Commercialization of Education Committee. Festus, your final words.
Let me use this opportunity to just educate the public that in addition to all international conventions and laws and all domestic laws aimed at promoting quality education, there is the development and creation of a new principles referred to as the Abidjan Principles, which were created and adopted in Abidjan last year, February. And these principles are to help government to know their obligation in terms of providing public education and also regulating private involvement in education service delivery. So we want to call on government to adopt these principles, which would definitely help in resolving some of the challenges that we have in our educational system. In addition to that, I would finally want to use this opportunity to thank Oxfam Ghana for being the organization supporting us to embark on this campaign. And then let me also not forget to thank them for also supporting the Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition to strengthen its systems and structures to the benefit of the Ghanaian child.
Your final words.
So let me use your platform to invite whoever. Now let's say the ministry is ending, it's going to do handing over very soon. Whoever is going to be the next minister for education, that our doors are open. We are willing to dialogue with them. In the 21st century, things are done with dialogue, collaboration, and consultation, and that's the way to go. We are not enemies of progress because they see teacher unions as opposition to whatever they want to do. We are not opposing to any policy. So long as it has good intention, we are prepared to support them. We will be their mouthpiece, because if a policy comes and it's not good, who will the teacher call? The first person the teacher will call is the union leader. Are you aware this and this is happening? If I say I'm not aware, what it means is that policy has failed right on arrival. Because they will be expecting that I will make some declaration that this. But when I say, I was part of the policy formulation and everything was done, the teacher's interest was put first, and it's good. Definitely, they will have no cause to complain.
Right.
So that is not being done too well, and we are saying that going forward, we want to see more of such consultations, and so that we can work as partners, dialogue, and then move this country forward. But if that is not being done, then definitely they are going to hear from us.
So that we're wrapping up. Let me just pick this final caller so that we'll wrap up. Hello, good morning.
Hello, Yunus.
Yes.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Musa from Sanaro.
Musa, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes. Your take?
Yeah, very lovely discussion you doing the studio here there. When it comes to public basic education, there has not been any finding that says that public schools. So the solution basically is not turning public schools into private schools in order that the schools there are public schools that are doing far better than the private schools. So the issue here is that there are various stakeholders that as far as improving education is concerned. Now, the reason why people are seeing public schools the conditions necessary for education to thrive are far seen in the private schools than the public schools. The stakeholders in the private schools are all contributing their quota far better than those in the public schools. So even if you convert all basic schools into private schools and those stakeholders are not contributing their part, the performance will still be as abysmal as we are seeing now. The stakeholders I'm talking about here are the parents, the teachers, the government, the students themselves. If they don't contribute their quota, even if it is a private school, it's not going to work. I can see that the time is already before I call it. So I'll be happy if in subsequent programs I get the time to call into in order to make
sure.
Thank you very much.
We are grateful. We are grateful for your time. Yeah. Yes, great submission there. Unfortunately, we don't even have time to even look at it. And one issue that baffles me is that when you look at the basic level, that's from KG to GHS, private schools appear to be doing far better. But when you look at the second cycle level, public schools do better, perform better than the private schools. And
that's what I mentioned earlier on. The infrastructure.
Yeah.
If you look at Achimota School, and you enter the compound of Achimota School or Nobi School or Tamale Senior High, the environment alone will tell you that, hey, I'm here to learn, I'm not here to joke. But when you enter a school that looks like a poultry farm, at the basic level, the facilities you have there don't look like a school.
Yeah, sure.
It can best be described as a poultry farm. So a child going to a poultry farm, is he going to feed
wooden structures?
With those wooden structures and the trees, and schools have to close when the rain set in, and I mentioned the furniture the children sit on. Normally when parents come for PTA meeting, and you give them the chair that their children sit on, they are not able to sit for 30 minutes. They get up. But that's what your child sits on from morning to evening. And it's expected to concentrate on the teaching and learning. So, and you go to a private school, they import this comfortable, this is even the child is a slow learner with the kind of environment he has. The child takes bus to school, while somebody's child has to walk 6 kilometers to access education. You get to school already very tired. So even if you cannot put up a school in that community, can't you engage some of these public transport? Actually, to go to some of these communities every morning and bring the children to the nearest school where they can access education. No, they walk cross rivers sometimes to school very tired, and they are not able to concentrate, very hungry. And so definitely, if you look at the difference, at the secondary level, the infrastructure is capital intensive. So the private sector is not able to buy that. So they are not able to establish secondary schools that meet that standard. But you find that at the secondary level by government. But when it comes to basics like that they are just learning one. Meanwhile, that's where character formation begins. So you don't wait for the children to form the bad habits
because
of the environment in which they find themselves. Then when they grow up and they don't fit into society, then we go now looking for millions of dollars to do sensitization campaign. It's a waste.
Right. Grateful for your time this morning, Richard Kwashi Kove. He's a Nagra rep on the CAPCOE committee, and the CAPCOE is a coalition against the privatization and commercialization of education. And Festus Bote Longmate is a GNECC rep on CAPCOE committee. And my name is Mumunu Yerfa Yunus. This is where time and space will permit us. We'll be back again next time, inshallah. Good morning.
You know you say you dey love them now, you dey follow you way, you dey run no yakachana. Solo yakachana. Solo yakachana. Solo yakachana. Solo yakachana. Solo yakachana.